And welcome viewers, Daily Space Weather coming at you. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. And we decided to start things out here looking at the colorized magnetogram as we see several areas of magnetic complexity happening, especially in the northern hemisphere. Let's look at the sunspot first. That's sunspot 2757 there in the northwest, which has remained an alpha class sunspot over the past 48 hours, and we're seeing it degrade slowly. A little bit of magnetic mixing on the front. You can see that green area in front of the umbra, so there is still some power left in that. I would also note, look at all the different organized areas of color up here in the north. Various areas of magnetic organization going on there, an indication of an uptick in solar activity, like everything else that we look at. And we're looking at 9 hours here. This area down here, this active region, is a cycle 25 plage, not a sunspot. Here's a view in 304 angstroms, complete with timestamps. And let's take a moment to look at the north as well. Again, that's 9 hours on today, January 30th, 2020. And let's talk about stereo A for a quick moment. Actually, let's look at HelioViewer first. Apparently I was out of order. Haha. Anyway, looking at HelioViewer, here are the fields associated with both the active region there and sunspot 2757. Haven't had many days without a sunspot this year, folks. So for all those YouTube channels out there predicting 0 sunspots for the cycle 25, guess again. And you can see a little bit of magnetic mixing happening at the front there, an indication we could see some flaring come out of that before it sets. And let's talk about stereo A for a quick moment here. Stereo A is chasing the Earth as it orbits the Sun in this counterclockwise direction. Stereo B is out here. It's stereo behind because it's seeing solar weather later than the Earth is. Stereo A is called stereo A because it's ahead. It's seeing solar weather ahead of the Earth. If you want to read all about it, check out the stereo website. And the reason I'm talking about it is because we've seen another coronal mass ejection. And once again, this one is not Earth-facing. You can see a significant high-speed coronal mass ejection there, kicking off right around midnight last night. There's a significant coronal mass ejection there. And there you have the timestamps associated with that. We do see some plasma outstretched toward the Earth, but no sign of ejections currently. And we'll let that play through one more time so you can see that non-Earth-facing coronal mass ejection. Next, we're going to look at HelioViewer.org, as we've put together a short video here in 171 angstroms. The latest from sunspot 2757. A close-up view, and we see some indications that there's some activity south of the equator also, out towards stereo B. We'll get to it in a minute. First, let's look at some more data. X-ray flux, quite flatlined here. No flaring seen. 10.7 centimeter radial flux still at 74. Slightly off of solar minimum conditions. KP index is at 2, having reached a peak of 3 over the past couple of days. And there's the solar wind data. And we see a steady solar wind speed, slightly elevated from what you'd call a solar minimum background level. Here's a real-time from Discover, and the real-time solar wind showing us a phi angle has just recently shifted back up to around 300 degrees. Solar wind density remains a little bit elevated there, 8.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed still up at 391 kilometers a second. Just a few days ago, we saw this below 300 kilometers a second, folks. So things are calming down as far as that goes. Here's the Geospace Magnetosphere movie, looking at the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And we see some anomalies there in the shape of the pressure on the equatorial plane view. And that is typically associated with things like wintertime. And we see multiple Van Allen belts forming there as a result of that higher solar wind. We're not going to get super in-depth into it. Looking pretty steady there. And as far as ground magnetic perturbations, we see quite a lot of them, as we have two north poles currently during this during this polar excursion. One over northern Canada and one over Siberia, as well as the South Pole apparently creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. Somewhere out there southwest of Australia. And we actually see some pulses coming directly out of the Indian Ocean as well as out of Hawaii. I'm going to let that play through a second time, and then we're going to look at the polar view as well, as we have been seeing some indications of a split in the South Pole as well. Now, we don't have as many magnetometers down there as it is Antarctica. And let me just let that play, and I'm going to show you the polar view right after this. And there's the view from the poles. We're looking at this to see if we see any additional anomalies here, as the poles are where the Birkeland currents enter and indeed leave on both sides. As if you have one going in, you've got one going out. The real question is, which one is in charge? The answer is the South Pole. But in any case, there you can see the main perturbations in the South Pole are up toward Australia. And we're seeing global magnetic pulses here. And as usual, the main changes in the B field, Earth's B field, that's the magnetic field that goes through the magnet, folks, are over the Canadian pole, as we typically have seen. Much less so over the Siberian one. And let's move on to more stuff, like electrons, which are at quite low levels, but they've come off of the floor a little bit. There are the data from the GOES 14 and 15, measuring two different electron energy levels, different voltages. You can see the higher energy electron flux is at a very, very low density. So very low levels of electron flux, not quite as low as it was yesterday at this time. Next, we'll look at the ionosphere. We're looking at 6 hours of ionosphere here. And we've been seeing continued anomalies in the South Pacific, somewhere off the west coast of South America, for a solid 2 months now. And let's just bring up the latest image, as there's plenty of stuff to cover yet, so don't go anywhere. And there's the latest image at 9:15 UT. There's the GOES magnetometer data, looking pretty spiky as forecasted, as there are sunspots and active regions on the Earth-facing zone, so nothing too out of the ordinary there. Now let me show you what I was talking about some activity on the far side of the sun here. There looks like there's some activity out there by stereo B, over here on the right. That's stereo B. And you can see a little bit of North Pole charging up the current sheet there. See that little bit of green popping out? Let me see if I can bring that up. There, you see that green popping out there? That's an indication that there's probably some activity south of the equator out there by stereo B. So in the next week or so, we should be able to see what's going on with that via stereo A. As stereo B is a little bit broken since 2014, when it experienced a hardware anomaly, and it hasn't been the same since. Anyway, there's the data from Gong2, and we are currently in the South Pole current sheet. There is a little bit of magnetic activity, but nothing too extreme here. Expect some continued striations in the GOES magnetometers. Talk about climate. Apparently it's so hot that it's cold in Saudi Arabia, as meteorologists fear the greatest, the longest, the strongest, the greatest, longest, strongest cold snap ever. Links to the Watchers article below the video. And we've got an error. Oh my gosh, a USGS. There we go. That's better. Let's look at the last 24 hours of earthquakes. First of all, a deep quake coming in just about 24 hours ago here at Chile. A 4.1 magnitude at 144 kilometers depth. Largest of the past 24 was another 6 magnitude there in Oceania. We'll get to it in a minute. Just going to scroll up the list in the meantime. Looks like a series of earthquakes on the U.S. West Coast. And a little bit of a down ticket, Alaska. And bear with me, folks, just scrolling up the list. There's a 5.7 at Indonesia. Here's one right on the surface at a depth of 0 kilometers at Alaska. It's only a 3.5 magnitude. Anyway, the largest of the past 24 is that 6.0 at the Solomon Islands. And that was at some depth there, 86.6 kilometers. And let's move on to more stuff. Looking at the pressure maps on windy.com, who has a great mobile app, by the way. You can download it for free to your smartphone. And we're going to let the pressure forecast via the GFS model play for about 24 hours and pause it at about 12 universal time tomorrow. So you can see the way pressure is going to be moving where you are, perhaps. And there's where we anticipate things to be via the GFS forecast at 12 universal time tomorrow. Looks like I'm going to have some high pressure above my head. Thanks, new viewers and new subscribers, etc., website members, for tuning in. If you're not familiar with where I am, I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Let's talk about Pacaya. Here's where it's located. I've put a pin on Google Maps for you. There's a location of Pacaya as we see fresh lava flows at the base of the volcano. Let's run down the list here at volcanoes today. At Volcano Discovery. Today's list includes Kluchavskoye on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Uptick there, flight level 20,000. Mount Aso, flight level 6,000 there. Sakurajima exploding. Flight level 9,000 there. Semaru, flight level 14,000 there. Dacono exploding, producing a 7,000-foot plume of ash. Popocatépetl exploding down in Mexico. 20,000-foot ash plume there. Pacaya, as we mentioned. Some lava flows happening there. Significant ones. As well as some seismic station tremors. Fuego exploding, 16,000-foot ash plume there. Sangay exploding, 21,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding, 16,000-foot ash plume there. And although we're not able to detect whether or not Sabancaya is currently erupting, please do not attempt to do a handspring over the caldera. Update on coronavirus. We're staying on top of it every day on the smAshomash.com/forum. So if you want everything all in one spot, click the links below the video. We've got all kinds of detailed information there. Maybe not as detailed as Johns Hopkins, but there's a link to that there also. So check out smAshomash.com/forum, as there's lots of information coming out there every day. And thanks everybody who has signed up. Let's talk about this amazing infographic here, courtesy Johns Hopkins University. Check it out. Here's a graph. And this is actually good news, folks, as we don't see a significant uptick in confirmed cases in other locations besides China. And also, it's good news that we see a linear slope on the graph and not a magnitudinal slope. Now, this is a more virulent virus than SARS, apparently. So mainland China has nearly 8,000 confirmed cases. And there's the breakdown. Still showing 5 cases in the U.S. So check out smAshomash.com/forum. Set yourself a login. Post a topic. Talk about whatever you want. We won't censor you. Although don't make a fool of yourself because, again, we won't censor you. Looking at lightningmaps.org, we see some significant lightning coming down, going up, whatever you want to say, around the Florida Peninsula. And let's look at some weather. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map. Some snow falling in Virginia and West Virginia. By the way, thanks again, Terry, for the coffee. We've finished off the Balinese Blue Moon. We're doing a mixture of the Peruvian and the Balinese Blue Moon. So, some snow hitting the northern Rockies. Let's move on to more stuff. Check out a snow forecast real quick on Tropical Tidbits. We'll just advance this to, I don't know, how about Monday? There's 12 Universal Time Monday. Nothing too extreme as far as snowfall. We won't spend a half hour talking about snow on this channel, ever. And looking at the U.S. water vapor map, we see that atmospheric river that we talked about yesterday making its way south now as the jet stream is pulling some cold air down. And let's zoom in on this zone over Arizona as it looks funky. And there's that big-time convergence over Arizona. If you're flying across the southern U.S., you're going to see some turbulence as you hit this massive air. If you're wondering why dry air is more massive than moist air, it's because of the molecular mass of nitrogen in the atmosphere versus the molecular mass of H2O in the atmosphere. H2O much less massive than N2, the atmospheric form of nitrogen. Here ends your air viscosity lesson for the day. Next, we'll look at the jet streams here on nullschool.net as we document extreme meridional jet stream flow on the daily. And you can see some cold air being injected down toward the Great Lakes region. And some big serious bends in the jet stream. It's doubled up over the central Atlantic. Here's the eastern world's jets. Looks like some very cold air about to hit Western Australia in the summertime. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please press like and subscribe on YouTube. We have hundreds and hundreds of videos about everything from space weather to various other things. And check out smAsho.org and read all about our mission. And please consider becoming a patron, the real source of funding for these videos and everything that we're doing. We've got 2 levels, $1 a month and $9.99 a month. So please consider being an assistant or perhaps an associate producer of the channel. And if you're thinking about trying crypto investing and you don't have an account yet, check out our link below the video to try Coinbase. You get $10 in free crypto. How can you go wrong? Just for signing up, it's a free account, and you'll be able to instantly cash in the 10 bucks if you want to, or you can start considering crypto investing. Now, I don't consider crypto a great investment. I do have a small token proof of concept investment just to sort of have a hands-on approach. And we do talk about economics regularly on the channel. Perhaps tomorrow we'll cover more economics. So check out the link. Get free crypto, 10 bucks worth, just for signing up via our link. And we've decided to throw in a quick section on That Is an Ass and That Is a Hole in the Ground, where we talk about everything like government corruption and stupid people, and not that stupid person. We're talking about a different, incredibly shady person. This guy right here, it's the Poop Patrol, San Francisco Poop Patrol boss, arrested on felony charges of corruption. Why do I find this interesting? Because I think that somebody in my local government is also corrupt in a similar manner. So government officials have a very easy time taking kickbacks and doing all kinds of unsavory things, such as pay-for-play scams. I don't know if you're aware, but recent Allentown mayor has gone to jail for like 40 years for corruption. So the Lehigh Valley is rife with it, and I might be exposing some myself. So if you know an attorney who wants to go after the government, hit me up, because I need legal representation for my appeal, since the government is trying to crack down on me. Here's a second article about Mohammed Nuru, allegedly corrupt poop patroller of San Francisco, who's been lining his pocket and receiving a salary via taxpayer money. If you've noticed some government abuse, check out IJ.org. It's the Institute for Justice. And if the grass Gestapos come over and try to confiscate your house and fine you $30,000 or $241.25 because your grass is too long, or he claims your hedges are actually weeds, or whatever idiotic thing, check out Institute for Justice. Just click on Report Abuse, fill out the form, they'll contact you. Let's talk about more insane politics, as Joe Biden has been doing some similarly awkward things. Check out this incredible footage where he tells somebody to vote for Trump.
I will not stop all deportations if you commit a crime that's a felony.
Not no more deportation. No more deportation.
Anyway, he tells these voters to vote for Trump at his own campaign rally. So, seems a little ineffective there, Joe, as he's been poking people in the chest and doing all kinds of awkward things, including to Ed Fallon, former Iowa State representative, who is a supporter of, get this, Tom Steyer, climate change activist billionaire Tom Steyer. And we are out, folks. Come back for a second video. We're going to do a second cosmology segment, looking at 48 hours of the local yellow dwarf here in 131 angstroms. Here to tell you, remember to stare at the sun. Use the proper instruments, perhaps the SDO. And when you do so, don't drink it. If you drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.